The moon was full and heavy in the sky, a silver crown that shone down upon the silver-fung pack. The ceremonial grounds were alive with torches and murmurs, the air thick with anticipation. Tonight was supposed to be a sacred night. A night where the Alpha and his Luna renewed their vows beneath the blessing of the moon goddess, binding their spirits before the eyes of the pack. But Selene felt unease curl in her chest long before the Alpha spoke. She stood at the Alpha's side, her long silver gown brushing the earth, her heart pounding like a frantic drum. The pack's eyes were all on her, hundreds of them wolves in human form, standing tall, waiting, watching. And at the center of it all was Kale, her mate, her Alpha, the man the moon goddess herself had chosen for her. His hand should have been holding hers. His lips should have been curved with pride. Yet his grip was cold, his expression distant. His dark eyes held none of the warmth they once carried when he looked at her. Selene told herself she was imagining it. That the unease in her chest was nerves, not doom. That the man she loved would not, could not, betray her under the sacred moon. And then he spoke. His voice was deep and sharp, carrying across the gathering like a blade of iron. From this night forward, he declared, Selene is no longer my Luna. The words sliced through her, merciless and final. A ripple of gasps moved through the crowd. Wolves shifted uncomfortably, whispers rising like wind through the trees. Selene blinked, her mind unable to process the sound she had just heard. Her lips parted, trembling. What did you say? Kale's eyes, black as midnight, fixed on her with cruel detachment. His shoulders were rigid, his voice steady as steel. I reject you, Selene. Before the moon goddess and before this pack, I reject you. The rejection bond tore through her like fire. It was more than words, it was pain made flesh, searing through the soul bond that tethered her to him. Her chest tightened, her heart convulsed, her knees buckled beneath her. She fell to the ground, gasping as if the air itself had abandoned her. The agony of rejection was unlike anything she had ever known. It was the ripping of a spirit, the shredding of love into ash. It felt as though invisible claws raked through her chest, tearing her apart from the inside. Around her, the pack looked on. Some pitied her, eyes soft with sorrow. Others sneered, their whispers venomous. A few turned away, ashamed to witness such cruelty. Selene clutched the earth, her voice breaking. No! Kale, no! You don't mean this. You can't mean this. But his face was cold stone, carved in cruelty. You are weak, he said, each word laced with venom. You cannot give me what I need. You are unworthy of leading beside me. Her vision blurred with tears. Her throat burned. Unworthy? After everything? After all we. But his voice thundered over hers. From tonight, I will take a new mate. One worthy of being Luna to my pack. The words struck harder than claws. A death sentence, not just to their bond, but to her dignity, her place, her very existence. The crowd shifted. Shock. Murmurs. Wolves exchanged uneasy glances. Selene's heart shattered. She had given everything to him, her love, her loyalty, her body, her soul. And now, before the pack she had served, the mate she had trusted, he stripped it all away. Her voice cracked with desperation. Why, Kale? Tell me why. For the briefest moment, his jaw tightened. His eyes flickered not with love, but with something else. Anger. Guilt. Fear. But the moment passed, and he turned his back to her without a word. The rejection was complete. The pack began to disperse, whispers buzzing like hornets, judgment heavy in the air. Some lingered, staring at her broken figure. Others bowed to Kale, accepting his cruel decision without question. Selene staggered to her feet, every breath a knife in her lungs. She could not stay. She would not endure their stares, their whispers, their pity. So she ran. Her feet carried her blindly, away from the torches, away from the ceremony, into the darkness of the forest. Branches clawed at her gown, roots caught her ankles, but still she ran. Her lungs burned, her vision blurred, and still she did not stop. The bond was gone, torn from her chest. She should have felt hollow, empty, lifeless. Yet deep inside, something stirred. Something warm. Something alive. Her knees gave way as she collapsed against the roots of an ancient oak, gasping, trembling, broken. Tears streamed down her face as she pressed a hand to her chest. But then she felt it. Not in her chest. In her belly. A faint flutter. A spark. Her hand trembled as it moved down, pressing softly against her abdomen. The warmth grew, undeniable now. Her eyes widened in shock, her lips parting. No, no, this isn't possible. Her mind reeled. The rejection bond had shattered, but something remained. Something he had left behind. Life. She was carrying Kale's child. Her tears fell harder, but this time, not only from sorrow. A storm of emotions raged within her: fear, confusion, disbelief, and a fragile thread of hope. She whispered into the night, her voice breaking, raw with emotion. "I'll protect you, no matter what it takes." Her fingers pressed against her abdomen as though she could shield the tiny life within her from the cruel world outside. But deep inside, Selene knew the truth. If Kale, or the pack, ever discovered her secret, both she and her unborn child would be hunted. The forest grew darker, shadows stretching like claws, the air heavy with foreboding. And though she was alone, Selene's instincts screamed otherwise. The hairs on her neck rose, her wolf stirring uneasily. Someone was watching her. Eyes, hidden in the blackness of the trees, glimmered faintly in the moonlight. Selene shivered. She pressed her back against the tree, clutching her stomach protectively. And in that moment, she understood her nightmare was only beginning. The story of the Luna's secret baby had only just begun. The forest was silent after the rejection ceremony, but for Selene, silence brought no peace. Her gown was torn from branches, her feet raw from running, yet she did not stop. Every shadow seemed alive, every rustle in the leaves a predator. She pressed her trembling hand against her stomach, whispering to the tiny spark of life within her. "I will keep you safe. No matter what it costs me." But how could she? She was a Luna without a pack, a woman rejected, disgraced, and abandoned. No wolf survived long without a pack, and yet she had no choice. The secret growing inside her meant she could never return. By dawn, Selene stumbled into the outskirts of the human town, collapsing at the door of an old healer known to live in solitude. Her name was Mara, an elderly woman with eyes like storm clouds and a reputation whispered in fear and reverence. When Mara opened her door and saw Selene on the ground, bloodied and broken, she did not ask questions. She brought her inside, lit candles, and laid her on a straw bed. Hours passed in a blur of pain and exhaustion until Selene woke to Mara's voice. "You are with child." The words froze her breath. Selene's hand instinctively went to her stomach. "You can tell?" The healer's sharp eyes softened. I can feel it. The child grows strong, but... Her voice trailed off, heavy with something unspoken. Selene's heart pounded. But what? Mara's fingers traced over the faint glow that seemed to pulse beneath Selene's skin. This is no ordinary pregnancy. The child carries a mark. A destiny. Selene's eyes widened in fear. What destiny? The healer shook her head. It is too soon to know. But listen to me, child. This baby is forbidden. If the pack learns of it, they will not rest until it is destroyed. Selene's throat tightened. She wanted to deny it, wanted to believe her mate would protect his own blood. But the memory of Cale's cold rejection seared through her heart. He had called her unworthy. He had chosen another. No, if he knew she carried his child, he would see it as weakness, as shame. Tears burned her eyes. She whispered, more to herself than to Mara, then I must hide it. Hide him. Meanwhile, back at the Silver Fang pack, whispers spread like wildfire. The rejected Luna was gone, vanished into the night. Some said she had run into the forest to die. Others claimed rogues had taken her. And some believed she carried a secret too dangerous to reveal. Cale, the alpha, stood at the packhouse window, his expression unreadable. His new chosen mate draped herself at his side, smiling with triumph. But behind his dark eyes, a storm brewed. Because deep inside, Cale knew what Selene had not told him. He had felt it in their bond before he severed it. A flicker of life. A spark that did not belong to him alone, but to them both. And though he would never admit it, the thought haunted him. Days passed in the healer's cottage. Selene's strength slowly returned, but the fear never left her. Every knock of branches against the roof made her heart race. Every howl in the distance sent chills down her spine. Mara gave her herbs to protect the child, charms to cloak her scent from hunting wolves. You must keep to the shadows, Mara warned. Your own people would kill what you carry. Selene stared into the candlelight, her hands resting protectively over her stomach. Then I will never let them find us. Her voice trembled, but inside her a new fire burned. She was no longer Luna of the Silver Fang pack. She was no longer the alpha's mate. She was a mother. And mothers fought with a strength no alpha could match. One night, as Selene slept, she woke to a strange sensation. Her stomach glowed faintly under the moonlight streaming through the window. A soft pulse, like a heartbeat outside her own. The baby. And with it came a vision, fleeting, but terrifying. A great wolf with eyes of fire. Blood on the snow. Her child, grown, standing at the center of a battlefield. Selene gasped, clutching her stomach, her heart racing. Moon goddess, what does this mean? The baby shifted, as if in response. And then, from the shadows outside, a sound broke her terror. A branch snapped. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Someone was watching. Selene's wolf stirred in alarm, her instincts screaming. She pressed her back against the wall, her arms shielding her stomach. From beyond the door came a low, chilling growl. The night air was sharp, carrying the smell of pine and damp earth. Selene pressed her back against the wall of the healer's cottage, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear it now. The footsteps outside. Slow. Heavy. Calculated. The low growl of a wolf prowling just beyond the door. Her hands instinctively covered her stomach, shielding the life inside her. The door creaked. A shadow passed over the thin crack of moonlight. And then silence. Selene held her breath, her pulse racing in her ears. The silence stretched on until finally, the growl faded and the footsteps retreated into the forest. Whoever or whatever had been watching her was gone. For now. She exhaled shakily, her body trembling as she sank to the floor. The healer Mara appeared in the doorway, her gray eyes narrowed with suspicion. "They are hunting you already," Mara said quietly. "It is only a matter of time before they find us." Selene shook her head. "No. They can't know, they can't possibly know." But deep inside, she wasn't so sure. Far away, in the silver Fung packhouse, whispers filled the halls. The rejection of the Luna was still fresh in every mind, but now rumors spread faster than fire. Selene had vanished without a trace. No body was found. No scent trail could be followed. And for wolves, that could only mean one thing: she had something to hide. Around the fire pit, the beta of the pack leaned close to Alpha Kale. "Some say she carries your child." Kale's eyes darkened, but he did not answer. The beta's voice dropped lower. "If it's true, the pack will see her offspring as a threat. You know what must be done." Kale's jaw tightened. He said nothing, but his silence was an answer on its own. Back at the cottage, days blurred into nights. Selene tried to stay hidden, tried to keep her mind focused on the child. But her heart ached, her spirit torn between fear and sorrow. And then someone came. She was fetching water at the stream when she heard her name whispered. "Selene." Her heart froze. She turned, and there he was. Damon, the Alpha's cousin, a man she had once called friend. He stepped from the shadows, his dark cloak brushing against the forest floor. His eyes softened when he saw her, but there was something in his expression she could not read. "Damon," she whispered, relief and suspicion clashing in her chest. How did you find me?" He gave a small smile. "I have my ways. I had to see you. The pack, they think you are gone forever. But I knew better." Her throat tightened. "You shouldn't be here. If they see you with me—" "I don't care," he interrupted, his voice low but intense. "Selene, you were wronged. Cast aside like you were nothing. You deserved better. And now they are spreading lies." Her stomach knotted. "What lies?" Damon hesitated, then whispered, "They say you carry Kale's child." Selene's pulse quickened. She looked away, fighting to keep her face calm. "And if I did?" Damon stepped closer. "Then you are in grave danger. Kale will not let that child live. The pack will see it as a threat to his new mate, his new line." Her knees weakened, but she stood firm, her arms instinctively wrapping protectively around her middle. "Then they will never know," she whispered. "I'll keep my child hidden. Forever, if I must." Damon's eyes flickered with something dark: pity, maybe, or something else. He reached out, his hand brushing hers. "I can help you. I can protect you. But you must trust me." For a heartbeat, Selene felt hope stir. Damon had always been kind to her, loyal in ways Kale never was. Perhaps he truly meant to help. But then she saw it. A glint of guilt in his eyes. The hesitation in his stance. Her wolf stirred inside her chest, whispering a warning. Something was wrong. That night, Selene couldn't sleep. Damon's words echoed in her mind. his promises of safety, his warnings of Kale's wrath. But her instincts screamed at her. Her wolf did not trust him. And she was right. Because deep in the woods, Damon knelt before Alpha Kale, his head bowed in submission. "I found her," he said quietly. "She carries your child." Kale's eyes narrowed, a flicker of something dangerous sparking within them. "And you're certain?" Damon nodded. "Yes. I saw it in her eyes, in the way she guarded herself. She won't admit it, but the truth is there. She carries your heir." Kale's expression was unreadable, but his fists clenched at his sides. The beta stepped forward. "Then it is decided. She must be brought back or destroyed." Kale's voice was low, cold, final. "Bring her to me. Alive." Back at the cottage, Selene woke to a strange stillness. The healer was gone, the fire burned low. Outside, the night was too quiet, no crickets, no wind, no distant howls. Her wolf stirred, restless. She pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders, her hand brushing against her stomach. The child shifted, a faint pulse of life that reminded her of what she had to protect. And then she smelled it. The scent of wolves. Familiar. Too familiar. Her blood ran cold. "They've found me." The door rattled. Voices murmured outside. Selene's heart pounded as she backed away, clutching her stomach. She knew then someone had betrayed her. Someone she once trusted. And now, the hunt had truly begun. Selene's breath came in shallow bursts as the wooden door trembled against the weight of fists pounding from the outside. Her wolf pressed hard against her skin, urging her to run, urging her to protect the child. She moved quickly, gathering the small bundle of clothes and herbs the healer had left behind, and slipped out through the narrow window at the back of the cottage. The cold night air cut through her cloak as she landed softly on the damp earth. Her bare feet carried her into the forest, the shadows of the tall pines swallowing her whole. She dared not look back. Every instinct screamed at her to move faster, to disappear before they could break through the door and discover her escape. The child within her shifted, a gentle reminder of the life she was fighting for. She whispered a promise into the wind, her voice trembling, "I will keep you safe. No matter what." Behind her, the howls began. Low at first, then rising in chorus, echoing through the forest like a death song. They had her scent now. They would hunt her until she could run no more. Selene's legs burned, but she pressed on, weaving between trees, leaping over roots, ducking beneath branches. The moonlight guided her path, silver beams cutting through the darkness. Yet with every step, the growls drew closer. A twig snapped ahead. She froze. From the shadows emerged two wolves, their eyes glowing amber, their lips curling back to reveal sharp fangs. Her heart stopped. They had cut her off. She took a step back, but another growl rose behind her. She was surrounded. Her wolf surged inside her, begging to be unleashed, but Selene hesitated. Shifting now would drain her strength, and she could not risk the child. She pressed her back against the rough bark of a tree, her breath ragged as the wolves crept closer, circling her like predators closing in on prey. Then, a sudden rustle in the underbrush. A figure burst into the clearing, moving with speed and strength. Damon. His cloak billowed as he stepped between her and the wolves, his eyes blazing with power. "Run, Selene," he shouted. Her body refused to move, torn between disbelief and fear. Had he come to save her, or was this another trap? The wolves lunged, and Damon met them head-on, his claws flashing, his growl fierce. Selene took her chance. She turned and fled, her body trembling, her lungs burning as she pushed herself deeper into the forest. Branches clawed at her skin, stones cut her feet, but she did not stop. She couldn't stop. The howls followed. The pack was relentless, their hunger for blood thicker than the night air. Tears blurred her vision, but she kept running, whispering the same words again and again like a prayer. For you, my child. For you. The forest seemed endless, but at last, she saw it, a glimmer of silver water through the trees. The river. If she could cross it, maybe, just maybe, she could lose their scent. With one final burst of strength, Selene plunged into the icy water. The current seized her, dragging her downstream. She clutched her stomach with one hand, her other fighting against the pull of the river as the howls thundered on the opposite bank. The world blurred into silver and black, water and moonlight, until finally, silence. Selene lay on the far shore, gasping, shivering, her body weak but alive. She had escaped, for now. But the hunt was far from over. Somewhere in the darkness, Alpha Kale raised his head to the moon, his voice a growl that carried through the night. You cannot hide from me, Selene. Not you. Not the child. And the promise in his words was clear. This was only the beginning. The night was cold and merciless as Selene dragged herself further from the riverbank. Her cloak clung heavy and wet to her skin, her teeth chattered, and every muscle screamed for rest. But she forced herself to keep moving, her hands gripping roots and rocks as she pulled herself up the steep incline of the forest's edge. The child inside her stirred faintly, and she whispered through trembling lips, I know, little one. Just a little further. I won't let them take you. At last she collapsed beneath the shelter of an ancient oak, its gnarled branches stretching out like arms to hide her from the moonlight. Her body shook uncontrollably, but exhaustion finally claimed her, and for a few hours, she surrendered to sleep. When dawn broke, the forest came alive with birdsong and rustling leaves. Selene awoke to the sound of footsteps. Her eyes snapped open, fear twisting her stomach. She pushed herself upright, ready to flee again, but froze when she saw a young girl standing a few feet away. The girl couldn't have been more than 12, her dark hair tied in braids, her dress simple and worn. She carried a basket of herbs and berries, and her wide eyes blinked with curiosity, not fear. You're hurt, the girl said softly, pointing to the cuts on Selene's arms and legs. Selene's throat tightened. She should run, she should hide, but her body was too weak, and there was something strangely gentle about the child. Before Selene could answer, an older woman emerged from behind the trees. Her sharp eyes studied Selene, not unkindly, but with the wariness of someone who had seen much. She wore the clothes of a healer, her basket full of dried plants and roots. Who are you? The woman asked. Selene's lips parted, but no words came. She could not reveal her true name, not here. Not when Kale's spies could be anywhere. The woman's gaze softened, as though she could see the desperation in Selene's silence. Come, she said finally. You are not safe lying in the dirt. Whatever danger follows you, the forest cannot shield you alone. Against her better judgment, Selene allowed the woman and her daughter to guide her deeper into the woods. They brought her to a small hidden cottage, surrounded by tall grass and vines, a place that seemed untouched by the outside world. Inside, the woman lit a fire and pressed warm broth into Selene's trembling hands. For the first time in days, she felt heat seep back into her body. My name is Alara, the woman said as she ground herbs into a paste. This is my daughter, Lyra. We live apart from the packs, away from their wars and their greed. You are safe here, for now. Selene's heart ached at the kindness in Alara's tone. For so long, she had known only betrayal and fear. And yet here was a stranger offering shelter without question. Still, she hesitated. Could she trust them? Could she risk endangering them with the secret she carried? That night, as Lyra slept curled against her mother, Selene sat by the fire with her hand resting on her stomach. She listened to the crackle of the flames and the soft breathing of her new companions, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself a fragile moment of hope. But far beyond the trees, Alpha Kale's search grew relentless. His wolves combed the land, their noses to the ground, their eyes sharp with hunger. He would not stop until Selene was found. And though she did not yet know it, the fragile safety she had stumbled upon was only the calm before another storm. The days passed slowly within the shelter of Ilara's cottage. Selene grew stronger with each meal, each hour of rest, but the fear never left her. At night, she lay awake listening to the silence, straining for the sound of distant howls. Every crack of a branch, every flutter of wings made her heart race. Ilara noticed. She always noticed. One evening, as she stirred a pot of herbs over the fire, she spoke without looking up. "You carry more than fear, child. You carry a burden." Selene's fingers tightened around the edge of her cloak. She had been so careful, so guarded. "I don't know what you mean," she whispered. Ilara lifted her gaze, her eyes sharp, almost knowing. "I was a Luna once. Long ago, before I chose this life apart from the packs. I know the look of a woman carrying a secret that could change everything." Selene's heart stuttered. She wanted to deny it, to keep her silence, but Ilara's voice was steady, her presence calm, as though she wasn't demanding a confession, only offering understanding. Lyra's laughter rang out from outside as she played among the wildflowers, a reminder of innocence untouched by war or betrayal. Selene lowered her head and spoke softly, the words tasting of sorrow and fear. "I carry his child." The admission hung heavy in the air. Ilara did not flinch. Instead, she set the wooden spoon aside and moved closer, placing a hand gently over Selene's trembling one. "Then you are hunted not just for who you are," Ilara said, "but for what grows inside you." Tears stung Selene's eyes, but she held them back. "I will protect this child. Even if it costs me my life." Ilara's expression softened. "It may come to that. But know this, children born of Luna's blood carry a strength unlike any other. Your child will not be ordinary. That is why they fear him, or her." Selene's chest tightened. She had felt it too, the strange energy pulsing within her, the way her wolf seemed to stir whenever the child moved. Perhaps Ilara was right. But before Selene could speak, a low howl pierced the night air. It was distant, but not distant enough. Lyra came running into the cottage, her small face pale. "Mama, the wolves are near." Selene shot to her feet, her heart hammering. The sound of snapping branches and padded footsteps echoed through the forest. They were closer than ever. Ilara's eyes narrowed. She moved quickly, grabbing a satchel from the wall and thrusting it into Selene's hands. "There's no more time. You must go." Selene shook her head. "No, I can't leave you. They'll find this place." "They already have," Ilara said firmly. "Go north. Follow the river until it bends west. There is a witch who owes me a debt. She will shelter you." The cottage shuddered as a heavy body slammed against the door. Growls filled the night, deep and guttural. The pack had arrived. Ilara shoved Selene toward the back entrance. "Run, Luna. Protect your child. I will hold them off as long as I can." Selene hesitated, torn between gratitude and guilt, but Lyra's terrified eyes left her no choice. She clutched the satchel to her chest and fled into the forest, her cloak billowing behind her. The last thing she heard as she disappeared into the trees was Ilara's defiant snarl as she shifted into her wolf form to face the intruders. And in that moment, Selene knew trust came with a cost. The forest was a blur of shadows as Selene ran, her cloak whipping behind her, her lungs burning with every breath. The cries of wolves carried through the night, each one closer, each one hungrier. She pushed herself harder, forcing her body to obey, whispering to the life inside her, "Hold on, little one. Just hold on." The river appeared ahead, silver beneath the moonlight. She stumbled down the embankment, her bare feet splashing into the icy water, and followed its winding path north as Ilara had instructed. The sound of rushing water drowned out the howls for a time, but her instincts told her the pack was not far behind. Hours passed like a nightmare that would not end. Branches lashed at her skin, roots clawed at her ankles, but she pressed on, guided by the promise of safety Ilara had given her. At last, just as dawn began to paint the sky with pale light, the river curved west. She followed it, her body aching, her spirit fraying, until she saw smoke rising faintly in the distance. A cottage stood at the edge of the woods, crooked and ancient, its roof sagging beneath the weight of moss and age. The air around it shimmered faintly, as if invisible threads were woven through the trees, pulsing with hidden power. Selene's wolf bristled inside her. This was no ordinary home. She staggered forward and knocked weakly at the door. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, the wood creaked and the door opened just enough to reveal a pair of pale eyes staring out at her. "You smell of wolves," a woman's voice said, cold and sharp. Selene swallowed hard. "Ilara sent me. She said, you would help." The door opened wider, and Selene saw her fully. The woman was tall and slender, her hair as white as bone, her skin pale as moonlight. She wore a dark gown that seemed to shift like smoke around her, and her eyes glowed faintly, unnatural and otherworldly. "Ilara still lives, then," the woman murmured. She studied Selene for a long moment before her gaze dropped to the swell of Selene's stomach. Her lips parted in a faint smile that was not entirely kind. "Ah. So this is why you are hunted." Selene instinctively covered her stomach with both hands. "Please. I don't care what you want from me. Just protect my child." The woman tilted her head, her pale eyes glittering. "Protection comes at a price. But perhaps, this child is worth the cost." Before Selene could speak, the air outside shifted. A low growl echoed from the trees. Her blood turned to ice. The wolves had followed. The woman's smile sharpened. "They come quickly. How eager they are for your blood." "Very well, Luna. Step inside, and we will see if fate favors you tonight." Selene stumbled across the threshold just as the first shadow moved in the trees. The witch closed the door, whispering words that made the wood glow faintly with runes of protection. The sound of claws scratching against the barrier filled the air, followed by furious snarls. Selene collapsed onto the floor, her body trembling, her arms wrapped protectively around her stomach. The witch stood above her, watching the door shudder under the weight of Kale's hunters. "You have no idea," the woman whispered, almost to herself, "how powerful the child within you will become." And as the wolves howled outside, Selene realized she was no longer just running for her life. She was running for something far greater, something the world itself might not be ready for. The night was restless around the witch's cottage. Selene sat huddled near the fire, her body shivering not from cold, but from the weight of everything pressing down upon her. Outside, the forest trembled with the sounds of wolves prowling, claws scraping against the barrier, snarls echoing like thunder. Yet none of them could cross the threshold. The witch's wards held firm. The pale woman moved silently around the room, her long fingers tracing invisible sigils in the air. Strange herbs smoldered in a bowl, filling the cottage with a sharp, bitter scent. Every so often, her gaze drifted to Selene's stomach, her eyes flickering with something unreadable: curiosity, hunger, maybe even fear. Selene could barely bring herself to speak. But at last, her voice broke the silence. "Who are you?" The woman's lips curved faintly. "Some call me Morrigan. Others call me worse. It matters little. What matters is that you carry a child that will change the balance of power among wolves." Selene's throat tightened. "I don't want power. I just want to keep him safe." Morrigan tilted her head. "Safety is not something I can promise. But I can shield you for now. The question is, are you prepared for the price when it comes?" Selene's heart pounded. She wanted to ask what price, but the words died on her lips. Before Morrigan could say more, the air outside shifted. The growls quieted. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then came a voice, deep, commanding, cold. "Selene." Her blood froze. She would know that voice anywhere. Alpha Kale. She staggered to her feet, her body trembling. Morrigan's eyes flickered with intrigue as she moved to the window. Through the thin glass, Selene saw him. He stood tall among his wolves, his dark hair gleaming in the moonlight, his eyes burning with fury. His presence alone was enough to silence the snarling pack behind him. "Come out," Kale's voice rang, steady and lethal. "You cannot hide from me. Not here. Not anywhere." Selene pressed a hand to her stomach, every instinct screaming to stay hidden. But her wolf stirred inside her, restless, responding to the pull of the mate bond that had never truly broken. Her knees weakened. Even after everything, his rejection, his cruelty, her body still knew him. Morrigan's lips curved in a sly smile. "Ah. The Alpha himself. Interesting. He knows, doesn't he?" Selene's voice shook. "He suspects." Outside, Kale took a step closer to the barrier, his eyes narrowing on the cottage. He could not see her, but he could feel her. The bond hummed faintly in his chest, a reminder of what he had cast aside. "You carry something that belongs to me," Kale growled. "And I will have it." Selene's breath caught, her arms instinctively wrapping around her middle. She stumbled back, shaking her head. "No," she whispered. "Not my child. Never." Morrigan's gaze flickered between them, calculating. "So it is true. The Alpha's heir." Kale slammed a fist against the barrier. The cottage shook, but the runes glowed brighter, holding him back. His wolves snarled, but none dared step closer. "Selene." His voice thundered through the night. "You think you can keep my blood from me? You think you can hide my heir? You are mine. And so is the child." Tears stung Selene's eyes as she pressed her back against the wall, her body trembling. "You lost that right the night you rejected me," she whispered, though her voice was barely audible over the pounding of her heart. Morrigan's smile deepened, her pale eyes gleaming with dark amusement. "This is going to be entertaining." And outside, Kale's rage burned hotter, his determination sharper. He would not leave without her. He would tear down the forest itself if he had to. The cottage walls quivered under the force of Kale's fury. Each strike against the barrier sent a ripple of energy through the air, shaking the rafters, rattling the jars of herbs on Morrigan's shelves. Selene clutched her stomach, fear and defiance warring inside her chest. "Stay back," Morrigan said coolly, her pale hand lifting as if to reinforce the glowing runes. "This protection will not break easily. Not even for an alpha as stubborn as yours." Selene's breath was shallow, her pulse wild. "He won't stop," she whispered. "He'll never stop." Morrigan turned her sharp eyes on her. "And will you stop running? Or will you face what hunts you?" Selene's voice trembled. "I can't face him. Not while I carry his child. He'll take everything from me." The witch tilted her head, studying her like one might study a rare, dangerous creature. "Perhaps. Or perhaps he will take nothing, if you learn to wield what is inside you." Selene blinked, confusion tightening her chest. "What do you mean?" Morrigan moved closer, her presence heavy, her words thick with promise and warning. "Do you not feel it, Luna? The way your wolf stirs differently now? The way your blood burns brighter? Your child amplifies your power. You are not as weak as you think." Selene shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I don't want power. I just want my baby safe." "And yet," Morrigan whispered, "to keep the child safe, you may need more power than you've ever dreamed of." Another slam hit the barrier, this one so violent the fire in the hearth guttered. Outside, Kale's voice rang, commanding, merciless. "Selene, come to me now, or I will burn this place to the ground." Selene staggered back, her breath catching. She could hear the conviction in his tone. He meant it. He would destroy everything in his path to reach her. Morrigan's gaze hardened. "Decide quickly. If you wish me to protect you, you must give me something in return." Selene's lips parted. What do you want?" The witch's smile was thin and sharp. "A vow. Swear that when the time comes, your child will walk the path I set before them." Selene froze, horror twisting in her gut. "No. I won't bargain my child's future." Morrigan's eyes narrowed. "Then there is little I can do when your alpha shatters his way inside." The doorframe cracked under another blow. The glowing runes flickered, weakening with each strike. Selene's heart raced, her wolf clawing at her insides, desperate to protect the life she carried. She pressed a hand to her stomach, whispering through clenched teeth, "I won't let him have you. I won't." The cottage shook again, dust raining from the beams above. Morrigan watched, unbothered, her pale eyes gleaming as though this was all some grand game. Selene's mind spun in panic. She was running out of time. The barrier was failing, Kale was relentless, and the witch demanded a price she could not pay. And in that terrible moment, Selene realized she might have to choose between two dangers: the alpha she once loved, or the witch who now held her fate in her hands. The barrier groaned under Kale's relentless assault. Each strike made the walls tremble, each growl rattled through Selene's bones. The runes glowed weakly now, their light flickering like dying embers. Selene clutched her stomach, her breath coming fast, knowing the protection would not last much longer. Then it happened. With a deafening crack, the ward shattered. The door splintered, and the wolves poured in first, their eyes glowing, their snarls echoing through the small cottage. Morrigan didn't move, her pale smile steady as she lifted a single hand. A surge of unseen power rippled through the air, and the wolves were thrown back against the walls, whimpering as they landed hard. And then Kale stepped inside. The sight of him stole the air from Selene's lungs. His dark hair framed a face carved from shadow and fire, his eyes glowing with the power of his alpha blood. He filled the room with his presence, every breath of his body a reminder of the bond that once tied them. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The silence was heavy, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the faint whimper of the wolves pressed against the walls. At last, Kale's gaze dropped to Selene's stomach. His expression darkened, fury and something else, something raw, flashing in his eyes. "It's true," he growled. "You carry my air." Selene's hand flew protectively over her stomach. Not yours anymore. This child is mine. Kale's eyes burned, the bond between them sparking like lightning. You think you can deny me? You think you can hide what belongs to me? That child is of my blood. Her wolf shivered at his voice, but Selene forced herself to stand taller, even as her knees trembled. You rejected me, Kale. You threw me away. You don't get to claim what you cast aside. A muscle in his jaw ticked, his breath sharp as he took a step closer. The room seemed to shrink with every movement he made. I rejected you, he said, his voice low, dangerous, but I will never reject my heir. That child will be raised in my pack, under my rule. Selene shook her head fiercely, tears stinging her eyes. Over my dead body. Kale's expression flickered, something almost like pain crossing his features, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by steel. He reached out, his hand hovering as though he meant to touch her, but Morrigan stepped between them, her smile sharp and mocking. Careful, Alpha, she purred. You are in my house. And she is under my protection. Kale's eyes narrowed, his voice turning to a growl. This is between me and her. Step aside. But Morrigan only laughed softly, her pale gaze gleaming. Oh no. This is no longer just between the two of you. This child is destiny. And destiny is mine to shape. Selene's heart pounded as the two forces faced each other, the Alpha who had broken her, and the witch who promised salvation at a terrible price. And in that moment, Selene knew the fight for her child's future had only just begun. Kale's growl deepened, a sound so primal it shook the walls of the cottage. His wolves stirred, their claws scraping against the wooden floor as they pushed themselves upright, waiting for his command. The air between him and Morrigan pulsed with raw tension, magic clashing against alpha dominance. Selene stood frozen, her hand pressed to her stomach, her heart hammering in her chest. She could feel her wolf straining inside her, torn between the bond that still tugged toward Kale and the instinct to protect the child at all costs. Enough games, Kale said, his voice like thunder rolling across the mountains. She is mine. Step aside, witch, or I'll tear through you to claim what's owed to me. Morrigan tilted her head, her lips curling into a cold smile. You think brute strength will serve you here? You may be alpha, but your power is bound by flesh and fury. Mine is woven in the very threads of fate. Kale's eyes flared, his chest rising with each breath as his control slipped. Then, in a blur of movement, he lunged. His hand shot forward, reaching for Selene. Morrigan's fingers snapped. The floor between them split with a blinding crack, a line of fire snaking through the wood. Kale was thrown back, his body slamming against the wall with a force that made the whole cottage shudder. His wolves whimpered, shrinking low to the ground. Selene gasped, the heat of the magic brushing her skin, leaving her trembling. Morrigan hadn't moved an inch, her pale eyes glittering like cold stars. You dare strike me in my own home? Morrigan's voice was quiet, but it cut like a blade. You forget, Alpha, there are forces older and stronger than your pack's bloodline. Kale pushed himself up, fury blazing in his eyes, his breath ragged. You think your tricks can keep me from her? From my heir? I will not leave without them. Selene's throat tightened. His words dug into her, the bond pulling at her heart in ways she hated, ways she couldn't ignore. But Morrigan turned her head slowly, fixing Selene with a piercing stare. Speak, Luna, the witch said. Do you stand with him, or with me? The choice is yours. Selene's breath caught, her vision blurring with tears. Kale's gaze locked onto hers, fierce, commanding, desperate all at once. She could feel the weight of his dominance pressing against her, calling her wolf to submit, to obey. But Morrigan's presence was no less suffocating. Her magic coiled around Selene like smoke, promising protection, power, and chains of another kind. The child inside her stirred, a faint flutter, as if sensing the storm raging outside. Selene pressed her hand more firmly to her belly, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I will protect you. Whatever it takes." Her words were not meant for either of them, yet both Cale and Morrigan heard. Cale's jaw clenched. "Then you know you must come with me." Morrigan's smile sharpened. "Or you know you must stay." The room spun with tension, magic and dominance clashing like storm and flame. And Selene realized with horror that no matter what choice she made, she would be stepping into another kind of prison. The room seemed to close in on Selene, the weight of two predators pressing down on her from either side. Her pulse pounded in her ears, her breath shallow, her wolf pacing inside her chest with restless urgency. Cale's power dragged at her like iron chains, while Morrigan's magic coiled around her like smoke, suffocating in its grip. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't think. And then, suddenly, she did. Her decision came like a lightning strike. She moved. Before either Cale or Morrigan could react, Selene darted toward the shattered doorway. Her wolf surged forward, lending her speed, her body fueled by desperation and instinct. She tore past Cale's wolves, their eyes widening in shock as she slipped between them like wind through trees. "Selene!" Cale's roar followed her, shaking the ground beneath her feet. Morrigan's voice rang out, cold and sharp. "Foolish girl." But Selene was already gone, vanishing into the night. The forest swallowed her whole. Branches whipped against her arms, roots threatened to trip her, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. The only thing that mattered was getting as far as possible from both of them. Every step she took was for the child inside her, every breath a vow that no alpha, no witch, no fate would steal her baby away. Behind her, the chase began. Cale's howl split the night, commanding his wolves forward. Their paws thundered against the forest floor, closing in fast. She could feel his rage burning through the bond, pulling at her, calling her to stop, to submit. Her wolf whimpered under the weight of it, but Selene gritted her teeth and pushed harder. Then, the forest shifted. Shadows thickened, twisting unnaturally, branches stretching like claws. Morrigan's magic. The witch would not let her slip away so easily. The trees themselves seemed to close in, the path narrowing, the air thick with smoke and whispers. Selene stumbled, her heart racing. She was caught between two terrors, Cale's wolves driving her forward and Morrigan's enchantments hemming her in. Her hand pressed to her stomach, her voice breaking in a desperate whisper. "Hold on, little one. I'll keep you safe. I promise." But even as she spoke, glowing eyes flared ahead of her. Wolves, blocking her path. Behind her, Cale's footsteps thundered closer. Around her, Morrigan's shadows coiled, ready to strike. Selene's chest tightened, her breath ragged. She was surrounded. Trapped. And yet, her wolf rose inside her with a strength she had never felt before, her body trembling with something wild, something new. For the first time, Selene felt the spark of a power she didn't understand, a power that belonged not just to her, but to the child she carried. The wolves closed in, their growls rumbling through the night like thunder. Selene's back pressed against the rough bark of a tree, her breaths coming fast and shallow. She could see their eyes glowing in the darkness, circling, waiting for the command to strike. Cale's voice boomed through the forest, powerful and commanding. "Do not harm her. She is mine. Bring her to me alive." His words wrapped around her like chains, pulling at her wolf, making her body ache to obey. Her knees weakened, her resolve faltered. The bond tugged, merciless and unrelenting. But then, deep inside her, something stirred. A heat, a force, pulsing from her womb and spreading through her veins like wildfire. The child. Their heartbeat was a rhythm inside her, steady, strong, feeding her with a strength that was not her own. Selene straightened, her trembling stilled. Her wolf rose within her, no longer cowering, but howling with defiance. The air around her shifted, thick with unseen energy, crackling like a storm about to break. The first wolf lunged. Selene cried out, but it was not fear that carried her voice, it was power. A surge of raw energy burst from her, bright and blinding, throwing the wolf backward into the trees. Another pounced, and again the energy flared, sending it yelping into the shadows. The forest fell silent for a heartbeat, the pack frozen in shock. Even Kale halted, his eyes glowing in the distance, disbelief etched across his face. Selene's chest rose and fell, her body humming with the strange new force. Her eyes glimmered faintly, her skin alive with sparks of silver light. She stared at her hands, trembling as she realized what she had done. Morrigan's laughter slithered through the trees, cold and triumphant. Ah, so the child awakens her gift. How glorious! How inevitable! Selene's heart raced. This power was wild, terrifying, but it was hers. She could feel it swirling inside her, bound to the tiny heartbeat she carried. She wasn't just running anymore. She wasn't just prey. Kale stepped forward, his voice low, reverent, and furious all at once. "Selene, what have you done?" She met his gaze, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I will never let you or anyone take my child. Not you. Not her. Not fate itself." And as the energy flared brighter around her, Kale's wolves lowered themselves, whimpering, bowing not to him, but to her. The glow around Selene dimmed, settling into her skin like embers after a storm. The forest was silent except for the ragged sound of her breathing. Wolves crouched low in the shadows, their ears pressed flat, their bodies trembling under the weight of a power that was not Kale's. Kale moved closer, his steps slow, deliberate, his golden eyes locked on her. He looked like a man torn between awe and rage, his jaw tight, his chest heaving with each breath. His voice cracked like thunder through the trees. "You wielded power no wolf should touch. Tell me, Selene, what have you become?" Her heart pounded, her arms trembling, but she lifted her chin. "I don't know. I only know this power came when I needed it. When our child needed it." The word hung in the air between them, sharp as a blade hour. Kale flinched, his gaze flickering to her stomach, then back to her face. For a fleeting moment, his eyes softened, as if some buried part of him ached to reach for her, to claim her, to protect her. But it vanished quickly, smothered by alpha steel. "You cannot control this," he growled. "It will consume you. It will consume the child. You must come back with me before it destroys you both." Selene shook her head, her hand pressing firmly over her belly. "No. I won't be your prisoner. I won't raise my child under chains, whether they're forged by your pack or your pride." Before Kale could answer, the air shifted. Shadows rippled across the trees, and Morrigan stepped forward from the darkness, her pale eyes glowing like moons. "How magnificent," she whispered, her voice heavy with satisfaction. "The child has already begun to awaken her. Do you see, Alpha? This is no ordinary air. This is the vessel of destiny." Kale bared his teeth, his wolf snarling beneath his skin. "Stay out of this, witch. You poison her with your lies." But Morrigan only smiled, tilting her head as she gazed at Selene. "It is no lie. You feel it, don't you, little Luna? The strength. The fire. The bloodline of your child will be unlike any the world has seen. Half wolf, half power, older than time itself. This is why fate brought you to me." Selene's throat tightened. "What do you mean? What are you saying about my baby?" Morrigan's gaze gleamed. "Your child is not merely an heir. They are a weapon. A ruler. A being meant to break the chains of the old order and bring forth something new. With my guidance, that future will be unstoppable." Selene's heart raced, her mind reeling. A weapon? A ruler? No. She wanted her baby safe, whole, free. Not bound to anyone's vision of destiny, not Kale's, not Morrigan's. Kale's roar tore through the clearing, shaking the trees. "She will not have you, Selene. And she will never have our child." And in the space between witch and alpha, Selene stood trembling, her wolf howling inside her as she realized the truth. Both of them would fight to claim her unborn child, not out of love, but out of power. And if she didn't find a way to protect the baby herself, she might lose everything. The night air trembled with tension, Kale's fury clashing with Morrigan's dark delight. Selene's heart raced so hard she thought it might shatter her ribs. Both of them wanted her, wanted the child she carried, not for love, not for safety, but for power. Her wolf snarled inside her, no longer afraid, no longer cowering. The bond with Kale burned hot and suffocating, while Morrigan's magic tugged at her like chains of smoke. And in that pressure, Selene felt it again, the spark. The power that had awakened in her when the wolves attacked. Her fingers curled, her breath coming slow and steady as the energy rose. Kale saw it, his eyes narrowing. "Selene, don't. You can't control it." Morrigan's smile sharpened. "Yes, child. Do it. Claim your gift. Let it grow." Selene's gaze darted between them, her chest heaving. Then she whispered, voice trembling with defiance, "No. Neither of you will decide my fate. Or my child's." And she unleashed it. The forest exploded with silver light, blasting outward from her body in a wave. Wolves yelped, thrown back into the trees. Kale staggered, his alpha strength barely holding him on his feet, his arms shielding his face. Morrigan hissed, her shadows recoiling as though burned. Selene cried out, the force ripping through her, but she didn't stop. Every ounce of fear, every wound, every heartbreak poured into that power, until the clearing itself trembled beneath her. "Stay away from me," she screamed. The ground split, roots tearing free. The trees groaned as though bowing to the storm she had become. And then, in the sudden silence that followed, the glow faded, leaving her swaying, weak, but still standing. Kale's chest heaved, his golden eyes locked on her, stunned. For the first time, he didn't look like the invincible alpha. He looked shaken. Morrigan's pale face gleamed with something darker than anger, hunger. "Yes," she whispered, almost reverent. "The power of a queen, born of blood and prophecy. You cannot run from this, Selene. It is only the beginning." Selene clutched her stomach, her legs trembling. She couldn't stay. Not here, between them. Not another moment. With what strength she had left, she turned and ran, disappearing into the forest once more, her heart pounding a single vow. She would protect her child. Whatever it took. Even if it meant standing against the alpha who once owned her heart. Even if it meant defying the witch who promised salvation. Even if it meant facing destiny itself. The forest stretched endlessly before Selene, shadows twisting, roots clawing at her every step. Her lungs burned, her body weakened by the surge of power she had unleashed. Still, she forced herself forward, clutching her stomach as though her touch alone could shield the life within. Every rustle behind her made her flinch, every howl in the distance sent terror down her spine. Kale's wolves were out there, hunting. And Morrigan's magic could slither through the trees at any moment. She was running on borrowed time. At last, her legs gave out. She collapsed against a fallen log, her breath shallow, her body trembling from exhaustion. Her wolf whined inside her, begging her to keep moving, but she couldn't. Not yet. Just a moment of stillness. Then movement. From the shadows, figures emerged. Wolves at first, their eyes sharp and wary. But as they stepped into the moonlight, they shifted, revealing scarred men and women with lean, hungry eyes. Rogues. Outcasts. The kind who had no pack, no alpha, only survival. Selene's heart seized. She tried to rise, but her body refused. One of them stepped closer, a tall man with a jagged scar running from brow to jaw. His gaze swept over her, lingering on the curve of her stomach, before he let out a low whistle. Well, well. Look what fate dragged into our woods. Another rogue laughed harshly. She smells of Kale. The alpha's little Luna. And carrying his pup. Selene's throat tightened. Her wolf bristled, but she could barely stand, let alone fight. The scarred man crouched in front of her, his eyes glinting. Relax. If we wanted you dead, you'd already be bleeding. But Kale's enemies are not few, and a runaway Luna carrying his heir? That is a gift too valuable to waste. Selene's pulse quickened. I don't belong to him. And this child is not his to claim. The rogues exchanged glances, murmurs of amusement and curiosity. Finally, the scarred man spoke again, his voice low, measured. Then perhaps our interests align. We hate Kale. We've lost too much to his pack's claws. And if you're truly against him, he smiled, sharp and dangerous. You may find allies among us. Selene's chest tightened. She didn't trust them. Couldn't. Rogues were ruthless, loyal to no one. But alone, weak, hunted, she had no choice. Her hand pressed protectively over her stomach as she whispered, If you mean to use me, I will fight you with everything I have. The man's smile widened. Good. That fire will serve you well. Come with us, Luna. You'll need more than courage if you want to survive the Alpha and the Witch. Selene's heart pounded. Surrounded by enemies of her mate, bound by desperation, she took his hand. Because for now, even rogues were safer than Kale's claws or Morrigan's shadows. And deep down, she knew this fragile alliance might be the only chance she had left. The rogues moved swiftly, their steps silent and sure as they guided Selene through the dense forest. She stumbled more than once, but the scarred man, who seemed to be their leader, kept her steady with a firm grip on her arm. His touch wasn't gentle, but it wasn't cruel either. It was the grip of a man who knew survival left no room for softness. The moon hung high, casting silver light over their path. Selene's wolf remained restless, pacing inside her, uneasy in the company of these outcasts. She could feel the way their gazes slid toward her stomach, a mix of curiosity, suspicion, and something darker. But none dared to touch her. Not yet. At last, they arrived at a hidden clearing. Rough tents and makeshift shelters circled a dying fire. The camp smelled of smoke, blood, and desperation. Children peeked from the shadows, their faces hollow but their eyes sharp. Women sharpened blades, while men stood watch with haunted stares. This was no pack, it was a gathering of the broken, bound together only by exile and rage. Selene's chest tightened. Whatever she had expected, it wasn't this. The scarred man raised his hand, signaling the others. She is under my protection. Touch her, and you answer to me. The rogues muttered, but none challenged him. He led her to a log near the fire and motioned for her to sit. Selene lowered herself carefully, her hand never leaving her stomach. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice raw. The man crouched across from her, the firelight casting shadows over his scarred face. "We are what Kale made us," he said flatly. "Exiles. Outcasts. Wolves who defied him and lost everything. Some of us lost packs, others lost families. All of us lost our place in the world." Selene's breath caught. She had known Kale was ruthless, but seeing the proof in their scarred bodies, in the hollow eyes of the children, twisted her stomach. "And now you find yourself his enemy," the man continued. "Which makes you valuable." Selene stiffened. "I will not be used. My child will not be a pawn in your war." The man's lips curved into a grim smile. "Good. That fire will keep you alive. But hear me, Luna, if you truly mean to defy him, if you truly mean to protect your child from Kale and the witch, then you will need allies. You cannot do this alone." Selene's heart pounded. She didn't trust them. She couldn't. But she saw the truth in his words. Alone, she would not last. With them, maybe she had a chance. She lifted her chin, her voice steady despite her fear. "Then I will stay. But if you betray me, I will unleash every ounce of power I have." The man's eyes gleamed in the firelight, unreadable. "Fair enough." And as the night closed in around her, Selene realized she had taken her first step into a new world, not Kale's, not Morrigan's, but one of rogues and survival. And in the shadows, destiny watched, waiting to see which side the Luna with the secret child would choose. The days that followed blurred into uneasy rhythm. Selene moved among the rogues like a shadow, watched from every corner but rarely approached. They gave her food, a place to sleep, and protection of a kind, but their eyes never left her stomach. The scarred man, who finally told her his name was Darius, kept closest. He spoke little, but his presence carried weight. The others obeyed him, though not with the devotion of a pack. It was respect born of fear, of scars carved by battles no one else survived. Selene spent her nights by the fire, her wolf restless, her body aching from exhaustion. The rogues whispered about her when they thought she wasn't listening, about her power, about the child she carried, about what it might mean. She heard words like weapon and hope tangled in the crackle of flames. One night, as the fire burned low, Darius sat beside her. His eyes, sharp and cold, studied her for a long moment before he spoke. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked quietly. "That surge inside you. The power. It wasn't just the child. It was something more. Something that belongs to you." Selene shifted uncomfortably, her hand resting on her stomach. "I don't want power. I just want my child safe." Darius's scar pulled tight as he gave a humorless smile. "Safety and power are the same thing. Kale rules because he has power. Morrigan waits because she wants yours. And you, whether you like it or not, are sitting on the edge of something that could burn them both." His words cut deep, because part of her knew they were true. She could still feel that spark inside her, waiting, restless. But then Darius leaned closer, his voice dropping lower, almost conspiratorial. "Do you know why we've survived out here, Luna? Because we understand one truth: the only way to defeat monsters is to create one stronger. And your child could be that monster." Selene's blood ran cold. She pulled back, her eyes wide. "No. My baby will not be twisted into some weapon for your war. I won't allow it." Darius didn't flinch. His gaze stayed steady, unyielding. "Then you are a fool. Because whether it's Kale, or Morrigan, or else someone will shape that child. Better it be us, who fight to tear down the Alpha who destroyed us, than those who would enslave the world. Selene's hands trembled as she held her stomach protectively. She wanted to scream at him, to tell him no one would ever touch her child, that she would burn the world before she allowed it. But her voice broke into a whisper instead. My child will not be a weapon. Not for you. Not for anyone. Darius's eyes darkened, his smile gone. We'll see. And in that moment, surrounded by rogues who called themselves allies, Selene realized the truth: she had not escaped Cale or Morrigan. She had only traded one prison for another. And time was running out. The forest was quieter that night, too quiet. Selene sat awake long after the others had drifted into uneasy sleep. The fire burned low, casting only faint shadows across the ragged camp. She couldn't shake Darius's words, couldn't escape the weight of them. Her child, a weapon. No! She would never allow it. Her wolf stirred uneasily, ears pricked, as if sensing something wrong. Selene rose quietly, careful not to draw attention, and walked deeper into the trees. The night air was cool, heavy with the scent of pine and smoke. For a moment she breathed easier, away from the watchful eyes of the rogues. But then voices carried through the trees, low, hushed, urgent. She crept closer, her heart pounding, and crouched behind the trunk of an old oak. Darius was speaking. He doesn't know she's here, he said, his tone clipped, commanding. And it will stay that way until I decide otherwise. Another voice, a younger rogue, answered nervously. But what if Cale finds out? He'll kill us all. You know what he does to traitors. Selene froze. Cale. Darius's reply was sharp. Cale already tried to kill me once. He failed. He will not get another chance. His voice dropped lower, but the venom in it was clear. This is my revenge. Selene's breath caught. Her hands trembled against the rough bark of the tree. Revenge. Against Cale. But what did that mean? The younger rogue hesitated. And the child? What do you plan to do with it? There was a long silence, broken only by the wind rustling the branches. Then Darius spoke, his voice calm, cold. The child is Cale's blood. His legacy. But raised by us, it will be his undoing. Selene's heart stopped. She clutched her stomach, bile rising in her throat. Darius, he wasn't just an exile. He wasn't just a scarred rogue who had lost everything to Cale. He had once been something more, someone closer. A bitter laugh followed from the younger rogue. You hate him so much, and yet you'd raise his heir? Darius growled low, the sound feral. I don't hate him. I want him to suffer. To watch his line destroy him from within. To see the empire he built crumble because of his own blood. Selene staggered back, her vision swimming. Her wolf howled inside her, a sound of rage and despair. She had thought she'd found uneasy allies. Instead, she was in the hands of a man whose hatred for Cale burned so deep, he was willing to use her child as a weapon of vengeance. Her stomach twisted. She had to get away. She had to run. But where could she go? Cale hunted her, Morrigan hunted her, and now even her so-called allies sought to claim her child for their own war. The truth cut deeper than any blade. There was no safe place. No refuge. Only enemies, waiting to shape the destiny of the life growing inside her. And Selene, trembling under the weight of it all, knew one thing for certain: if her child was to survive, she would have to become more dangerous than any of them. The camp was alive with whispers, but Selene heard nothing except the echo of Darius's confession. Brother. Cale's brother. The truth clawed at her chest like a beast set loose. She wanted to scream, to rage, but instead she stood tall, her hands steady over her stomach, her voice cutting through the firelit clearing. My child is not yours. Not Cale's. Not Morrigan's. And not a pawn in anyone's war. My baby belongs to me, and me alone. Her words fell like a blade, and for a heartbeat, silence reigned. The rogue shifted uneasily, caught between Darius's command and the fire in her voice. Darius's scarred face twisted into a slow, bitter smile. Then you had better learn to fight, Luna. Because every path you walk leads to blood. Cale will come for you. Morrigan will come for you. And when they do, his voice dropped lower, dark and certain, you will realize there is no such thing as freedom. Selene's wolf snarled inside her, fierce and unyielding. She did not flinch. She did not look away. Instead, she lifted her chin, fire blazing in her eyes, and whispered words that burned with promise. Then let them come. The night swallowed her vow, carrying it into the shadows where fate itself listened. She had been rejected, hunted, betrayed. But she was still standing. She was still fighting. And for her child, she would become a storm none of them could control. The fire crackled. The rogues watched in silence. And as the moon hung heavy above them, Selene understood the truth: her war had only just begun.